Lydia turned her key in the lock and frowned. The deadbolt didn't click. She'd locked it that morning. She always locked it. 3 years of looking over her shoulder had made her careful. Obsessively careful. She pushed the door open slowly, heart already picking up speed. The living room looked untouched. Her coffee mug still sat on the counter where she'd left it. Mail scattered on the table. Everything normal. Everything wrong. A faint scent hung in the air. Expensive cologne. The kind that came in black bottles with names she couldn't pronounce. The kind she used to smell on tailored suits in glass towers overlooking the city. The kind Kang wore. Lydia's breath caught. She set down her work bag without a sound, fingers trembling as she reached for her phone. The screen was black. Dead battery. Of course. She moved toward the bedroom, each step deliberate, remembering the self-defense classes she'd taken in her new life as Sarah Martinez. The door stood half open. She never left it open. Lydia's hand found the light switch. A man sat in her reading chair by the window, one leg crossed over the other with terrifying casualness. The streetlight cut across his face, illuminating sharp cheekbones and darker eyes that tracked her movement like a predator watching prey. His suit was immaculate, charcoal gray and perfectly tailored. The edge of a tattoo crept above his collar, black ink against skin she'd once traced with her fingers. Hello, Lydia. The basket of laundry fell from her other hand. Clothes scattered across the hardwood floor. Welcome to the channel, beautiful souls. If you're already hooked by Lydia's dangerous encounter with the man she thought she'd escaped, you're in for one thrilling ride. This is where dark romance meets deadly obsession, and trust me, it only gets more intense from here. If stories of fierce love, betrayal, and mafia power games captivate you, hit that subscribe button and join our community. Your support means everything. Now let's see what Kang does next. Kang Dong-hyun smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. You changed your hair. I preferred it long. He uncrossed his legs and leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped like a man conducting a business meeting. Sarah Martinez. Interesting choice. Very ordinary. How did you? Her voice came out strangled. She cleared her throat, forced herself to stand straighter. How did you find me? I never lost you. He tilted his head, studying her with an expression that made her skin crawl. Did you really think I wouldn't know about the apartment in Cincinnati? The job at the dental office? Your Thursday yoga class? He pulled something from his pocket. Her journal. The one she kept hidden under her mattress. You still write in cursive. Still drink chamomile tea before bed. Still sleep on the left side. Lydia's legs went weak. She grabbed the doorframe. The alarm. Disabled. Kang stood in one fluid movement and she flinched. He noticed. Something flickered across his face. The locks have been changed. Your phone is jammed. Your car won't start. He took a step closer. And before you consider screaming, Mrs. Chin next door is visiting her daughter in Portland. The college students downstairs are at a concert. You made it so easy, Lydia. Living alone. Predictable routines. She backed into the hallway. He followed, unhurried, like he had all the time in the world. What do you want? The words barely made it past her lips. Kang stopped an arm's length away. Close enough that she could see the thin scar above his eyebrow. Close enough to smell that cologne that brought back memories she'd spent 3 years trying to bury. You stole from me. I don't. $50 million. His voice stayed soft, conversational, which somehow made it worse. And evidence that could have destroyed everything I built. You disappeared like smoke. He reached out slowly, giving her time to move, and picked up a framed photo from the hallway table. Her and her sister, taken before everything went wrong. But you left pieces of yourself behind. Pieces I've been collecting. Lydia's throat closed. I'll give it back. The money. All of it. Just leave. It's not about the money anymore. Kang set down the photo with deliberate care. When he looked at her again, something burned in his eyes that made her stomach drop. It stopped being about the money the day you left. Then what? A phone buzzed. Not hers. Kang pulled a sleek device from his jacket, glanced at the screen, and his jaw tightened. He held it up so she could see. The message was in Korean, but she recognized the name. Kang's rival. Here's what's going to happen. Kang pocketed the phone and extended his hand toward her. You're going to come with me. Willingly. I'll keep you safe from the people who now know exactly where you are. He paused, letting that sink in. Or you can refuse and I'll leave. I'll disappear just like you did 3 years ago. And in approximately 4 hours, Minho's men will knock on that door. His smile returned, cold and sharp. They won't be as patient as I am. Lydia stared at his outstretched hand. That's not a choice. No, Kang agreed. It's not. Her eyes dropped to the scattered laundry at her feet. Something caught the light. Small. She crouched slowly, picking up a fallen blouse. Underneath it, half hidden in the fabric, was a listening device. Professional grade. Not Kang's. Her blood went cold. Kang followed her gaze and nodded once. You see, you were never as free as you thought. Outside, a car engine started. Then another. The quiet street that had felt so safe suddenly sounded full of threats. Lydia looked up at the man who'd haunted her dreams and nightmares in equal measure. At the hand still extended. At the devil offering protection from demons she couldn't see. 10 seconds, Lydia. Kang's voice dropped lower. 9. 8. She took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm and possessive, and for just a moment, something raw flickered across his face before the mask slammed back in place. Good girl, he murmured and pulled her toward the door. Now let's go home. The SUV idled at the curb, black and gleaming under the streetlights like a hearse. 2 men stood beside it, suits sharp enough to cut, faces blank as marble. They didn't react when Kang led Lydia down her front steps, his grip on her wrist firm but not painful. A claim. A warning. Get in. He opened the rear door and she hesitated just long enough to see his jaw tighten before climbing inside. The leather was cold against her bare arms. She should have grabbed a jacket. Should have grabbed anything that made this feel less like being erased from her own life. Kang slid in beside her, close enough that his thigh pressed against hers. The door shut with a heavy click that sounded like finality. The SUV pulled away from the curb, and Lydia watched her apartment disappear in the side mirror. 3 years of safety. Gone in 10 minutes. You take your coffee black now. Kang's voice was casual, conversational, as if they were old friends catching up. Used to drink it with cream and 2 sugars. Trying to be healthier, Sarah? Her stomach twisted at the name. At how easily he said it, mocking the identity she'd built from nothing. Don't call me that. Why not? He pulled out his phone, scrolling through something she couldn't see. It's who you are now. Sarah Martinez, dental office administrator. You make $1,250 every 2 weeks. You eat lunch at that Vietnamese place on Tuesdays. Pho with extra basil. He glanced at her, eyes gleaming in the passing headlights. You smile at the owner's son. He thinks you're pretty. Does he know what you really are? Stop. The word came out sharper than she intended. Kang's smile widened. Thursdays you go to yoga with Rebecca from accounting. The instructor's name is Jake. He adjusts your form during warrior pose. His voice dropped, something dark threading through it. He touches your hips. Your shoulders. Does he linger, Lydia? She turned to face him, anger finally burning through the fear. What do you want from me? You've made your point. You know everything. You've won. Won. Kang pocketed his phone and shifted, angling toward her. This isn't about winning. This is about what you took from me. The money is the least of it. His hand moved, sudden and fast, catching her chin between his fingers. Not rough. Almost gentle. But the control in the gesture made her breath stop. You left. Disappeared like I was nothing. Like what we had was nothing. We had a transaction, Lydia said, even as her pulse hammered against her throat. I worked for you. Kept your books clean. That's all. His thumb brushed across her lower lip, and her body betrayed her with a shiver. Liar. The SUV turned onto a highway, the city lights streaming past in ribbons of gold and red. Kang released her chin but didn't move away. Here's what happens now. You work for me again. You help me find the 50 million you buried God knows where. In exchange, I eliminate every threat that knows your real name. And if I refuse? You won't. He said it with absolute certainty. Because Minho doesn't just want you dead, Lydia. He wants you broken first. And he has resources. Creativity. Time. Kang leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. I'm the devil, you know. Choose wisely. The SUV pulled into an underground garage, concrete and shadow swallowing them whole. They rose through floors in silence, Lydia's mind racing through exits that didn't exist and plans that wouldn't work. The penthouse doors opened onto floor-to-ceiling windows that turned the city into a glittering ocean far below. Kang walked to a bar cart, poured 2 glasses of whiskey. Your favorite? Still Macallan. She didn't answer. Didn't move from the elevator. He brought her the glass anyway, pressing it into her hand. To new beginnings. Lydia stared at the amber liquid. I hate you. I know. He touched his glass to hers. But you'll work for me anyway. He moved past her toward the windows and she followed without thinking, drawn by some magnetic pull she couldn't name. The city sprawled beneath them, indifferent and vast. Kang stopped at the glass, hands in his pockets, and Lydia realized too late she'd walked right into his trap. He turned, backing her against the window in one smooth motion. The glass was cold through her thin shirt. His body was warm, solid, too close. 3 years, he murmured, one hand braced beside her head. 3 years I've thought about this moment. What I'd say. What I'd do. His other hand found her waist, fingers splaying across her hip. I had speeches prepared. Threats. But now that you're here. His mouth hovered an inch from hers. Lydia's hands came up, pressed against his chest. To push him away or pull him closer she didn't know. The moment shattered. A door burst open and a man stumbled through, blood soaking through his shirt, face gray with pain. Boss, he gasped, dropping to one knee. Minho hit the warehouse. The warehouse. They took everything. Kang went rigid. The heat between them vanished, replaced by something ice-cold and lethal. He stepped back, already moving toward the injured man. How many? 12 of ours. All dead. Lydia watched Kang's face transform into something she remembered from the old days. The mafia boss. The killer. The man who built an empire on fear. He looked back at her over his shoulder and smiled. Welcome home, Lydia. We're just started. The guard outside the bedroom door was built like a wall, all muscle and silent menace. Lydia had tested him once, asking for water, and he'd simply pointed back inside without a word. Message received. She was a prisoner in a gilded cage. Kang had left 30 minutes ago, phone pressed to his ear, barking orders in rapid Korean. The injured man had been carried out on a stretcher. The penthouse now felt cavernous and empty, all that glass and steel suddenly feeling less like luxury and more like a cage suspended 40 floors above the ground. Lydia paced to the window, then back to the massive desk in the corner. A laptop sat there, closed, innocent. Too innocent. She opened it slowly, half expecting an alarm to sound. Nothing. Just the login screen glowing in the dim light. She shouldn't. This was clearly a trap, a test to see if she'd run straight back to her FBI contacts. Kang would be watching, always watching. But Lydia hadn't survived 3 years on the run by being predictable. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, muscle memory from her old life taking over. She bypassed the security in 4 minutes, slipping into Kang's financial network like sliding into familiar water. The numbers appeared on screen and her breath caught. The 50 million she'd stolen was nothing. Pocket change compared to what Kang was moving now. Offshore accounts. Shell corporations. And there, buried in encrypted files. A deal worth $200 million. A cartel connection. Weapons, she guessed, or maybe pharmaceuticals. The exchange was scheduled for 5 days from now at a location marked only as Port 17. And someone was systematically bleeding the operation dry. Small transfers. Subtle enough that Kang's people might have missed them. But Lydia saw the pattern. Minho wasn't just attacking warehouses. He was preparing to steal the entire deal. The door burst open and Lydia's hands froze on the keyboard. Kang stood in the doorway, suit jacket gone, white shirt splattered with blood that wasn't his. His knuckles were split raw. His eyes were wild, dangerous, scanning the room before landing on her. What are you doing? His voice was deadly quiet. Lydia turned the laptop toward him. Saving your deal. He crossed the room in 3 strides, gripping the desk edge as he stared at the screen. She watched his jaw work, processing what she'd found. How did you? The same way I found your money to steal it 3 years ago. She stood, pulling up another window. Minho's been siphoning your accounts. Small amounts, nothing that would trigger alerts. But it adds up. He knows about Port 17. He's going to hit you during the exchange. Kang's eyes snapped to hers. You cracked my security in 30 minutes. 26, Lydia corrected. She pulled up a new screen showing a map. You need to move the deal. Change the location. I can create false breadcrumbs, make Minho think it's still at port 17 while you use port 23 instead. Split his forces. He'll be expecting an ambush but not from the wrong location. Silence stretched between them. Kang stared at her like he'd never seen her before, something raw and unguarded flickering across his face. Why are you helping me? Because if Minho wins, I'm dead anyway. She met his gaze, refusing to look away. And because you were right. I was the best you ever had. Something ignited in his eyes. You still are. He moved around the desk, backing her against it in one fluid motion. His hands found her waist, lifting her onto the surface, scattering papers. The laptop cast harsh shadows across his face, across the blood still staining his collar. You always were the smartest person in any room, he murmured, stepping between her knees. His hands slid up her thighs, possessive and demanding. I forgot how much I missed that. Kang. He kissed her. Hard. Brutal. Tasting of whiskey and violence and 3 years of rage. Lydia's hands pushed against his chest, but her body betrayed her, arching into him. She bit his lip and he groaned, deepening the kiss until she couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only feel the heat of him surrounding her. His fingers tangled in her hair, tilting her head back to expose her throat. Say you missed this, he demanded against her skin. Say you thought about me. I hated you, she gasped, but her legs wrapped around his waist, pulling him closer. Liar. He bit down on her pulse point and she shattered, her carefully maintained control exploding into something desperate and hungry. She kissed him back with equal violence, nails raking down his back, both of them fighting for dominance in a war neither wanted to lose. He carried her to the bedroom, their bodies colliding with the door before they made it inside. They fell onto the bed in a tangle of limbs and fury, 3 years of longing and betrayal burning between them like wildfire. When Lydia woke, sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows. The bed beside her was empty, sheets cold. She sat up slowly, head pounding, body aching in ways that made her face flush with shame and something darker. A note lay on the pillow where Kang's head should have been. His handwriting, sharp and precise. Stay. Or the door is unlocked. Lydia looked at the bedroom door. Wide open. The guard was gone. She could walk out right now. Disappear again. Start over. But her eyes drifted to the laptop still open on the desk, showing port 17 on the screen. Showing the war she just inserted herself into. She picked up the note, reading it again. Not a command. A choice. The same choice she'd made 3 years ago when she ran. Lydia stood, walked to the door and stared down the empty hallway. Freedom waited at the other end. Instead she turned back and closed the door. This time she was staying. The dress Kang had laid out was crimson silk, backless, the kind of thing designed to make men forget their own names. Lydia stared at it like it might bite her. You need to look the part, Kang said from the doorway, already dressed in a midnight blue suit that made him look like sin personified. Tonight you're mine. Not my accountant. Not my prisoner. His eyes traveled down her body with deliberate slowness. I love her. This is strategic, Lydia said, more to herself than him. Business. His smile was wolfish. Keep telling yourself that. The poker game was held in a private club that didn't exist on any map, all marble columns and crystal chandeliers dripping wealth and danger in equal measure. Men in expensive suits clustered around tables, smoke curling toward vaulted ceilings, conversations conducted in 6 languages. This was where empires were built and destroyed over cards and whiskey. Kang's hand settled at the small of her bare back, possessive and burning hot against her skin. Stay close. Smile. And for God's sake don't talk unless I tell you to. Charming, she muttered. His fingers pressed harder, just shy of painful. I mean it, Lydia. These men eat weakness for breakfast. One wrong word and we're both dead. She felt eyes track them as they moved through the room. Predators assessing prey. Kang nodded to a few, ignored most, his body language screaming ownership every time someone's gaze lingered too long on her. They stopped at a table where 3 men sat, cards already dealt. The one in the center was clearly cartel. Dark eyes, scarred hands, the kind of still presence that came from watching people die. "Kang," he said in accented English. "You brought entertainment. I brought my good luck charm." Kang pulled out a chair, sitting, then tugged Lydia onto his lap in one smooth motion. She stiffened, but his arm wrapped around her waist like a steel band. "Luis, let's talk business." The game began. Lydia tried to focus on the cards, the money-changing hands, but Kang's hand wouldn't stay still. It traced patterns on her hip, slid up her ribcage, fingers ghosting just beneath her breast. His lips brushed her shoulder, her neck, murmuring bets and raises that had nothing to do with poker and everything to do with claiming her in front of these men. "You're enjoying this," she whispered when Luis looked away. "Immensely." His teeth grazed her earlobe. "And so are you." She was. God help her, she was. The heat pooling low in her belly had nothing to do with strategy and everything to do with the way his body fit against hers, the way his voice dropped into something dark and promising when he whispered, "After this, I'm taking you home and finishing what we started." Then she saw him, Marcus, her FBI handler, standing across the room in a waiter's uniform, tray balanced on one hand, eyes locked on hers with urgent desperation. Lydia's breath stopped. "Oh, not here. Not now." She stood abruptly, nearly knocking over chips. "Bathroom," she said, not waiting for permission. Kang's eyes narrowed, but he nodded, and she fled before he could see her hands shaking. The hallway was quieter, muffled sounds of the game bleeding through walls. She leaned against cool marble, trying to slow her racing heart. "Lydia." Marcus materialized from a side door, grabbing her arm. "Jesus Christ, what are you doing here?" "Marcus." Relief and terror warred in her chest. "How did you find?" "We've been tracking Kang for weeks. This meeting is huge." He pressed something small and metallic into her palm. "A tracker. Plant this on him. His jacket, his phone, anything. We can end this tonight." "I can't." The words came out before she could stop them. "If he finds it, then you'll have immunity. Protection. Everything we promised." Marcus's grip tightened. "You're not his, Lydia. You're ours. Remember that. She's not anyone's." Kang's voice cut through the hallway like a blade. He stood 10 feet away, perfectly still, one hand inside his jacket. Marcus spun, reaching for his own weapon, but Kang was already moving. "Don't," Lydia started. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. Marcus stumbled backward, red blooming across his white shirt, eyes wide with shock. He hit the wall and slid down, leaving a crimson smear, the life draining from his face in seconds that felt like hours. Lydia couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't process the body crumpled at her feet or the smoking gun in Kang's hand or the way he looked at her with something cold and terrible and waiting. "Were you going to warn him?" Kang's voice was deadly quiet. He stepped over Marcus's body without looking down, closing the distance between them. "Or were you going to let me kill a federal agent for you?" The tracker burned in her palm, small and damning. Kang's eyes dropped to her closed fist. "Open your hand, Lydia." She did. The tracker gleamed under the hallway lights, a tiny betrayal in silver and chrome. Kang looked at it, looked at her, then smiled, and it was the most frightening thing she'd ever seen. "Good girl. You chose me." He plucked the tracker from her palm, crushed it under his heel and pulled her against him. His suit jacket was warm, his heartbeat steady against her cheek. Like he hadn't just murdered a federal agent 5 feet away. "Time to go home," he murmured into her hair. "We're done here." Lydia looked back at Marcus's body as Kang led her away. She'd made her choice. God help her, she'd made her choice. The penthouse door slammed behind them with enough force to rattle the windows. Lydia whirled on Kang, 3 hours of silence finally erupting. "You killed him. You killed Marcus right in front of me." "Yes." Kang shed his jacket, tossing it over a chair with practiced ease. No remorse. No hesitation. He was FBI. A federal agent. "Do you understand what you've done?" Her voice climbed higher, cracking. "What you've made me complicit in?" "Complicit." Kang turned and something dangerous flickered in his eyes. "You stood there and watched. You didn't scream. Didn't run. Didn't warn him." He crossed the room in 3 strides, backing her against the wall. "You chose me, Lydia. Own it." "I didn't choose. You've been choosing me since you walked back into that bedroom and closed the door." His palm slapped the wall beside her head. Stop lying to yourself. Tears burned her eyes. He was trying to save me. He was trying to use you. Kang pulled out his phone, jabbing at the screen before shoving it in her face. Look at it. Bank transfer. $100,000. Sender, Marcus Chin. Recipient, an account she recognized. Minho's Shell Corporation. The world tilted. Your handler sold you out. Kang's voice was brutal, merciless. 3 weeks ago. That's how Minho found you. That's why I had to move first. He threw the phone onto the couch. So tell me again how he was saving you. Lydia's knees went weak. She slid down the wall, the red silk dress pooling around her like blood. No. Marcus wouldn't. Everyone has a price. Kang crouched in front of her, forcing her to meet his eyes. At least I'm honest about what I am. I never pretended to be your savior. You're a monster. And you loved a monster once. His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. What does that make you? The question hung between them, sharp and cutting. Lydia stared at him, at the man who'd haunted her nightmares and dreams in equal measure, and something inside her finally broke. I was pregnant. The words fell into the silence like stones into water. Kang went absolutely still. 3 years ago. When I ran. Her voice cracked, years of buried pain rising to the surface. I was 8 weeks pregnant and I was terrified. Terrified of bringing a child into your world. Into the blood and the violence and the... She choked on a sob. I couldn't do it. I couldn't raise a baby in that darkness. Kang's hand dropped from her face. Lydia. So I took the money and I ran and I thought maybe I could do it alone. Build something safe. Something clean. The tears came harder now. But 3 months later I miscarried in a motel bathroom in Ohio. Alone. Because I was too scared to go to a hospital. Too scared they'd find me. I know. The words were so quiet she almost missed them. What? I know. Kang's voice was raw, stripped of all pretense. My sources told me. 6 weeks after it happened. He stood abruptly, turning away, hands clenched into fists. You think I didn't search for you? You think I didn't tear apart every city, every lead, every whisper? He spun back and his eyes were blazing. I found you in that motel, Lydia. In the records. Found the hospital you finally went to. Found the doctor's report that said you nearly died from blood loss. She couldn't breathe. You think you were alone? His voice broke. I was in the parking lot when you walked out. Watched you get in that rusted car and drive away because I thought. He stopped, jaw working. I thought you needed to be free more than you needed me. You were there. I was always there. He crossed to her, sinking to his knees, and for the first time since she'd met him, Kang looked vulnerable. Human. Your disappearance nearly destroyed me. Do you understand that? Nearly destroyed everything I built because I couldn't focus, couldn't think, couldn't breathe without wondering if you were alive. Lydia reached for him with shaking hands, cupping his face the way he'd cupped hers. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Don't. He caught her wrists, his grip almost desperate. Don't apologize for surviving. Then his mouth was on hers and it wasn't like before. This wasn't conquest or possession or power. This was grief and longing and 3 years of loss pouring between them like a flood. Lydia kissed him back with equal desperation, tasting salt and whiskey and regret. They moved to the bedroom in a tangle of limbs and gasping breaths. The dress tore. His shirt buttons scattered across the floor. They fell onto the bed, and this time when they came together it was raw and honest and devastating. Years of anger and pain and love they'd never admitted burning away until only truth remained. Afterward, Lydia lay in his arms, his heartbeat steady beneath her ear. His fingers traced lazy patterns on her spine. Stay, he whispered into her hair. Really stay. Not because you have to. Because you want to. She tilted her head up, meeting his eyes. Kang. The alarm shattered the moment. Piercing. Urgent. Red lights flooded the bedroom. Kang was on his feet instantly, grabbing his gun from the nightstand. Get dressed. Now. What's happening? His phone buzzed with incoming messages. His face went hard as stone. Minho. He's breaching the building. Gunfire erupted somewhere below them. Close. Too close. Kang pulled on pants, threw her a shirt. We have 60 seconds before they reach this floor. He checked his weapon, grabbed a second gun from the safe. Can you shoot? Lydia caught the weapon he tossed her, muscle memory taking over. Yes. Good. He grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the panic room. Because this is about to get very ugly. The elevator dinged. They were out of time. Are you still breathing? Drop a comment below and let me know. Are you Team Kang, or do you think Lydia should run while she still can? If you're as obsessed with this story as I am creating it, smash that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens when Minho's men breach that door. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. I love connecting with you all. Now back to the danger. The panic room door sealed with a hydraulic hiss, 3 inches of reinforced steel between them and the chaos erupting outside. Gunfire echoed through the penthouse, sharp cracks followed by shattering glass and shouted commands in Korean. Kang moved to a wall of monitors, fingers flying across controls. Security feeds showed Minho's men flooding the stairwells, at least 20 fighters in tactical gear. His own men were holding the lower floors but barely. Blood already stained the marble floors. How many do you have? Lydia asked, checking the magazine of her weapon. 8 on sight. Maybe 12 if the backup team makes it through Minho's blockade. Kang's jaw was tight. He's got triple that. This isn't a raid, Lydia. It's an execution. Explosion rocked the building. One of the monitors went dark. He's been planning this for months, Kang continued, pulling weapons from a hidden cache. Every move I made, he was 3 steps ahead. Every safe house, every route. He stopped, meeting her eyes. He knew I'd come for you. He's been waiting for me to bring you somewhere he could corner us both. Lydia's mind raced. They were trapped 40 floors up, outnumbered 3-1, with an enemy who'd orchestrated everything. In an hour, maybe less, Minho's men would breach this room and it would be over. Unless. Give me your phone, she said. What? Your phone. Now. She held out her hand and something in her voice made him comply. She pulled up a browser, fingers shaking as she entered a URL she'd memorized years ago. FBI Emergency Protocol. She typed in her old access codes, praying they hadn't been revoked after Marcus's death. The screen loaded. Access granted. What are you doing? Kang grabbed her wrist. Saving us. She triggered the alert. Officer down, active shooter situation, federal agent compromised. Every available unit would respond. Federal raid in 10 minutes. Maybe less. His eyes widened. You just called the FBI on me. I called them on Minho too. She met his stare. It'll be chaos. Everyone scrambling. That's when we run. For 3 heartbeats he just looked at her. Then he smiled, fierce and approving. You brilliant, terrifying woman. The monitors showed new movement. Police vehicles appearing on the street below, sirens wailing. Minho's men hesitated, confused. The distraction Lydia needed. Kang pulled her toward a hidden panel in the floor. Tunnel system. Goes 3 blocks to an underground garage. He handed her extra magazines. Stay close. Stay quiet. And Lydia, he cupped her face, kissed her hard and quick. Don't die on me. Same to you. They dropped into darkness, concrete tunnel barely wide enough for single file. Behind them, the sounds of federal agents breaching the building mixed with renewed gunfire. The plan was working. They ran. Lydia's lungs burned, the gun heavy in her grip. Kang moved ahead, checking corners with military precision. They were almost to the exit when footsteps echoed behind them. Go. Kang shoved her forward. Don't stop. I'm not leaving. 3 of Minho's men rounded the corner, weapons raised. Kang returned fire, muzzle flash illuminating the tunnel in strobe light bursts. 1 man dropped. 2 kept coming. Lydia spun and fired, her training taking over. Center mass. Breathe. Squeeze. The second man fell. But the third. The shot was deafening in the enclosed space. Kang stumbled, red blooming across his shoulder, but he didn't go down. He fired twice more and the third man collapsed. Then Kang's knees buckled. No. Lydia caught him, his weight nearly taking them both down. Blood poured between her fingers, hot and slick. Stay with me. Stay with me. Keep moving, he gasped, face gray. They're coming. She hauled him up, his arm around her shoulders, half carrying him through the tunnel. Every step was agony. Her muscles screamed. His blood soaked through her shirt. But she didn't stop. The garage. Finally. A motorcycle waited where Kang said it would be. She propped him against the wall, hands shaking as she applied pressure to his wound. So much blood. Too much. Safe house, he mumbled, words slurring. Address in my phone. Passcode 0614. June 14th. The day they met. Lydia's vision blurred with tears she couldn't afford to shed. She found the address, memorized it. Got him onto the bike behind her, his arms weak around her waist. The engine roared to life. They rode through streets lit by police lights and sirens, Kang's grip growing looser with each block. She talked to him the whole way, begging him to hold on, promising things she had no right to promise. The safe house was a warehouse in the industrial district, abandoned and perfect. She got him inside, laid him on a table under flickering lights. First aid kit mounted on the wall. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking as she cut away his shirt. Through and through, she assessed, trying to remember her training. Missed the major arteries. He packed the wound, wrapped it tight. His breathing was shallow but steady. You're going to be fine. You hear me? You're going to be fine. His hand found hers, weak but warm. His eyes opened, unfocused but finding her face. I never stopped looking for you, he whispered. Never stopped. Every day. Every night. I know. The tears came then, hot and unstoppable, dripping onto his chest. I know. I'm here. I'm not leaving. Promise me. I promise. She pressed her forehead to his, her breath mixing with his. I promise, Kang. I'm staying. His eyes drifted closed. His hand went slack in hers. Lydia held him there in the darkness, blood on her hands and tears on her face, and realized she was crying, not from fear or regret, but from the terrifying certainty that she'd already lost him once and wouldn't survive losing him again. Outside, sirens wailed. Inside, all she could hear was his heartbeat. Still beating. Still fighting. Still hers. The fever came on the second night. Lydia pressed a cold cloth to Kang's forehead, watching his chest rise and fall in shallow, uneven breaths. Infection. She'd feared this. The warehouse had basic supplies but no antibiotics, and taking him to a hospital meant capture or death. Hyung, he mumbled in Korean, thrashing. Hyung, wake up. Brother. Lydia had heard the story in fragments over the years. Kang's older brother, murdered when Kang was barely out of his teens. She'd never heard him speak of it directly. Shoo. She stroked damp hair from his forehead. You're safe. His eyes opened, glassy and unfocused. Lydia. I'm here. They killed him in front of me. The words spilled out, fever stripping away his defenses. Made me watch. Said if I didn't take over the organization they'd kill our mother next. I was 19. 19 and suddenly responsible for 50 men, a territory, blood debts I didn't understand. Lydia's chest tightened. Kang. Every ruthless decision. Every life I took. His hand found hers, gripping desperately. It was survival. All of it. I became the monster because the alternative was death. His eyes focused on her face, lucid for just a moment. Until you walked into my office with your spreadsheets and your coffee addiction and you looked at me like I was just a man. Not a boss. Not a killer. Just a man. Tears burned her eyes. Rest now. We can talk when you're better. You made me want to be better. His grip loosened as unconsciousness pulled him under again. First time I felt human in 10 years. By the fourth day the fever broke. Kang woke weak but clear-eyed, color returning to his face. Lydia helped him sit up, spoon-feeding him soup she'd made from the limited supplies. He submitted to her care with surprising docility, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. You stayed, he said finally. Where else would I go? Anywhere. Everywhere. I expected to wake up alone. His hand caught hers. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You still look like death. Charming. But he smiled and it transformed his face into something almost boyish. Help me up. I need to move or I'll go insane. She got him to his feet, his arm around her shoulders. They made it to the window overlooking empty fields stretching toward distant woods. The safe house was truly isolated, exactly what they needed. Lydia. Kang turned her to face him, both hands framing her face. What I said. When the fever. I know. She leaned into his touch. I heard all of it. And you're still here. I'm still here. He kissed her then, soft and searching, nothing like the consuming passion of before. This was tender. Reverent. Like he was memorizing the shape of her mouth, the way she sighed against him. When he pulled back, his eyes held something that looked dangerously like hope. They made their way to the bedroom slowly, his wound still healing but not stopping them. This time when they came together it was unhurried, gentle, years of walls crumbling between them. Lydia traced the scars on his body, bullet wounds, knife marks, the map of violence that made him. And he traced hers too, the invisible ones, with kisses and whispered promises. Afterward, she lay in his arms, listening to his heartbeat steady and strong. We can't stay here forever, she murmured. I know. His fingers traced patterns on her spine. When I'm stronger, we'll leave the country. New identities. Clean slate. You'd give up your empire? I'd give up everything for you. He said it simply like it was fact. I already have. Lydia wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe in this fragile piece they'd carved from chaos. But something nagged at her, a whisper of doubt she couldn't silence. The next morning, while Kang slept, she found his jacket draped over a chair. She shouldn't. This was trust, what they were building. But old instincts died hard. The phone was in the inner pocket, hidden in a false lining. Not his regular phone. A burner. Her hands shook as she powered it on. 3 text messages. All from the same unknown number. All in Korean. But she recognized enough characters to understand. Meeting confirmed. Friday midnight. Port 17. She'll be there. You have my word. Payment on delivery. The phone slipped from her fingers, clattering on the wooden floor. Payment on delivery. She'll be there. Lydia looked at Kang, still sleeping peacefully in the bed they'd just shared, and felt something inside her shatter. He'd been negotiating with Minho. Using her as a bargaining chip. Every tender word, every promise, lies. All of it lies. She moved on autopilot. Dressed in silence. Found his car keys on the dresser. Her hands didn't shake anymore. They felt numb. Dead. At the door she looked back one last time. Kang stirred, reaching for her in his sleep, finding only empty sheets. I'm sorry, she whispered, knowing he couldn't hear. Sorry for believing. Sorry for hoping. Sorry for loving him when he'd never stopped playing games. The car engine started with a roar that shattered the morning quiet. Through the rearview mirror she saw him appear in the doorway, shirtless, wild-eyed. She saw his mouth form her name. Then she pressed the accelerator and disappeared into the dawn, leaving him standing alone in the doorway of their broken safe house, watching her choose freedom over faith one more time. But this time she wasn't running from him. She was running from the truth that she'd fallen for the same man twice, and he'd betray her both times. The road stretched empty ahead, and behind her she heard nothing but silence. The black SUV appeared in her rearview mirror at mile marker 47. Then another. And another. Lydia's foot slammed the accelerator, but Kang's car was built for city streets, not outrunning professional hunters on empty highway. They boxed her in with surgical precision. She tried to brake, to swerve, but a van clipped her rear bumper and sent her spinning into the shoulder. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. The airbag deployed, punching the air from her lungs. Hands dragged her from the wreckage before she could process what happened. A hood went over her head. Zip ties bit into her wrists. She was thrown into a vehicle that smelled of cigarettes and gun oil, and then they were moving again. Time became meaningless under the hood. 20 minutes. Maybe an hour. When they finally pulled it off, Lydia blinked against fluorescent lights in what looked like an abandoned factory. Rust stained the walls. Broken windows let in cold wind. And in the center of the vast space sat Minho, looking like a businessman conducting a meeting, not a man who'd just orchestrated a kidnapping. Lydia Kent. He smiled, standing to circle her like a predator examining prey. Finally. Do you know how long I've been trying to get you alone? Where's Kang? She hated how her voice shook. Still bleeding in that pathetic warehouse, I imagine. Minho's smile widened. Or perhaps he's realized you abandoned him again. Hard to say which wound cuts deeper, the bullet or the betrayal. What do you want? What I've always wanted. Kang's empire. His territory. His connections. Minho stopped in front of her, tilting her chin up with one finger. And you, my dear, are going to help me take it all. I'll never. You'll do exactly what I say. His grip tightened, nails biting into her skin. Because when Kang comes for you, and he will come, the fool can't help himself, I'm going to make him watch while I destroy you. Piece by piece. Until there's nothing left of the woman he loves. His eyes gleamed with sadistic pleasure. Then when he's broken and begging, I'll put a bullet in his brain. Fully. So he feels every second of his empire crumbling. Lydia's stomach turned. You're insane. I'm thorough. Minho released her, turning to gesture at the factory. This is where it ends, Lydia. 3 years of running. 3 years of games. Tonight, everything comes to a head. A woman entered from a side door, tall and elegant in tactical gear that looked tailored. The perimeter is secure, she said in accented English. No sign of pursuit. Excellent. Hannah, make sure our guest is comfortable. Minho checked his watch. I have preparations to make. Kang should arrive in approximately 4 hours. I want everything perfect. He left, taking most of the guards with him. Hannah remained, unlocking Lydia's zip ties and guiding her to a chair. Sit. I'll get water. Lydia rubbed her wrists, studying this woman who moved with military precision. You're his lieutenant? Something like that. Hannah returned with a bottle, and when she handed it over, their fingers touched. Lydia felt paper pressed into her palm. Drink slowly. You'll need your strength. Lydia waited until Hannah moved away before unfolding the note hidden in her hand. 4 words in neat handwriting. Trust Kang. He knows. Her head snapped up. Hannah was adjusting equipment, her back turned, but Lydia saw the slight nod. Understanding crashed over her like a wave. The texts. The negotiation. She'll be there. You have my word. Kang had been feeding Minho false information, drawing him into a trap. And Lydia had been the bait that didn't know it was protected, making her reaction genuine enough to fool Minho's surveillance. Why are you helping me? Lydia whispered. Hannah glanced back, eyes hard. Minho killed my sister. Made it look like gang violence. I've been waiting 3 years for the right moment to destroy him. She moved closer, voice dropping. Kang offered me a way out. A new life, clean identity in exchange for helping him end this. You're undercover. I'm survival. Hannah's smile was bitter. Same as you. Before Lydia could respond, Hannah's radio crackled. A guard's voice, urgent in Korean. Hannah's eyes widened. She grabbed Lydia's arm, pulling her behind a concrete pillar. What's happening? Your monster is here. Hannah pulled a gun from her holster, pressed it into Lydia's hands. And he brought hell with him. The first explosion shook the building. Then gunfire, not scattered shots but coordinated assault. The lights cut out, plunging them into darkness broken only by muzzle flashes and emergency lighting. Through the broken windows, Lydia saw vehicles, at least 10 surrounding the factory. Tactical teams poured out, moving with military precision. And at the center of it all, illuminated by burning wreckage, stood Kang. Even from this distance she could see the fury in his posture, the deadly intent in every movement. He was still injured, still recovering, but he moved like vengeance incarnated. Like a man with nothing left to lose. Minho's men scattered, returning fire, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. This wasn't a rescue. This was an annihilation. Hannah grabbed Lydia's shoulder. Stay low. When the fighting reaches us, run for the east exit. Kang's men will find you. What about you? I have unfinished business. Hannah checked her own weapon, face set with grim determination. Minho dies tonight. By my hand or Kang's, but he dies. The factory doors exploded inward. Smoke and chaos poured through. Men shouting. Bodies falling. And through it all, steady and unstoppable, Kang advanced. Lydia saw him clearly now, blood-soaked, eyes blazing, moving through Minho's forces like death itself. He was looking for her. Hunting through the carnage with single-minded focus. Their eyes met across the burning factory. And in that moment Lydia understood. He hadn't betrayed her. He'd protected her the only way he knew how, with violence and strategy and the willingness to burn the world down to keep her safe. She stood, and his expression transformed into something raw and desperate. Then Minho appeared behind him, gun raised, and Lydia screamed. Lydia's scream cut through the chaos and Kang spun. Minho's bullet grazed his temple instead of finding his skull, close enough to draw blood but not kill. Kang dropped and rolled as Minho fired again, the bullet sparking off concrete where his head had been. Hannah moved beside Lydia, cutting through zip ties with a blade. Go. I'll cover you. Lydia didn't need to be told twice. She ran toward the main warehouse floor, gun clutched in both hands, weaving through smoke and burning debris. Bodies littered the ground, some in Minho's colors, more in Kang's. The price of this war was written in blood. She found them in the center of the warehouse, circling each other like wolves. Kang's shoulder was bleeding again, the wound from the penthouse siege reopened. He moved slower, favoring his left side. Minho saw the weakness and smiled. Your woman abandoned you, Minho taunted, feinting left. Just like before. She'll always run, Kang. That's what she does. Shut your mouth. Kang's voice was raw, deadly. They collided with brutal force. Fists and elbows. Kang landed a vicious hook that snapped Minho's head back, but Minho retaliated with a knee to Kang's injured shoulder. Kang's grunt of pain echoed through the warehouse. Lydia raised her weapon, trying to find a clear shot, but they moved too fast, too close together. She couldn't risk it. Minho slammed Kang against a steel beam, pressing forearm across his throat. I'm going to kill you slow, he hissed. Then I'm going to find her, Anne. Kang headbutted him and they went down in a tangle of limbs. They fought with savage desperation beyond technique now, just two predators trying to survive. Blood slicked the concrete. Kang's movements grew slower, weaker. The injury was costing him. Minho saw his chance. He twisted, pinning Kang's arms, and pulled a gun from his ankle holster. Pressed the barrel against Kang's temple. Any last words? Time crystallized. Lydia saw everything with perfect clarity. The fuel barrels stacked 15 feet behind Minho, the emergency lighting that would make them explode if hit just right, the impossible angle she'd need to make the shot. She raised her weapon. Aimed it directly at Kang. Minho laughed. That's right. Join me. Kill him yourself. I'll let you live if... Lydia fired. The bullet passed inches from Kang's head, so close he felt the heat. Punched through the first fuel barrel, then the second. For one eternal heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the world exploded. The blast threw Minho forward, flames engulfing his back. He screamed, stumbling, and Kang didn't waste the opening. He grabbed Minho's gun hand, twisted, and fired 3 times into Minho's chest. Point blank. Final. Minho collapsed, still burning, eyes wide with shock. How? She chose me, Kang said and pulled the trigger once more. The factory groaned, structure compromised by the explosion. Smoke poured through shattered windows. Lydia ran to Kang, helping him up, his weight heavy against her. He was bleeding from multiple wounds now, face gray with pain. You shot at me, he gasped, but there was awe in his voice. I shot past you, you idiot. She pulled his arm over her shoulders. Can you walk? For you? I can fly. They made it 10 steps before his knees buckled. Lydia caught him, lowering him to the ground. His shirt was soaked with blood, not just the shoulder wound but new injuries from the fight. A knife wound in his side. Broken ribs, maybe. Too much damage. Leave me, he whispered. Sirens. Police. You can still. Shut up. Lydia pressed her hand to his side, trying to stem the bleeding. I'm not leaving you. Not again. Never again. His hand covered hers, warm despite the blood loss. Lydia. You can walk away. Clean slate. I left instructions with my lawyer. Money. New identity. Everything you need. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? She leaned down, pressing her forehead to his. You impossible man. Just you. Sirens wailed closer. Hannah appeared through the smoke, supporting an injured man from Kang's crew. We have maybe 2 minutes before this place is swarming with feds. There's a van at the south exit. Move now or we all go down. Lydia looked at Kang, at his blood on her hands, at the life they could have if she could just get him out of here. Then at the approaching red and blue lights visible through the smoke. Leave him and walk free. Or save him and become a fugitive forever. 3 years ago she'd chosen freedom. Tonight she chose love. Help me get him up, she told Hannah. Together they hauled Kang to his feet. He was fading, consciousness slipping, but he managed to smile. Knew you'd stay. Don't gloat. You're still dying. Worth it. They staggered through the burning factory, Kang between them, leaving a trail of blood. The van waited where Hannah promised, engine running. They loaded him into the back and Lydia climbed in beside him, cradling his head in her lap. As they pulled away, factory collapsing behind them in a shower of sparks and ash, Kang's hand found hers one more time. I love you, he whispered, so quiet she almost missed it. Always have. Always will. Lydia bent down, kissing his forehead, his cheek, his lips. Then stay alive, you bastard. Because I'm not done with you yet. His eyes closed, smile still on his lips. The van raced into the night, sirens fading behind them, carrying them toward either salvation or damnation. Lydia held him close and prayed for salvation. The underground clinic smelled of antiseptic and blood. Dr. Chin worked with steady hands, decades of patching up criminals making him efficient and silent. Lydia paced outside the operating room, Kang's blood still staining her clothes, her hands shaking no matter how many times she washed them. He'll survive, Hannah said from the corner, cleaning her own weapon with methodical precision. Chen's the best. Got Kang through worse. How long have you been undercover? Lydia asked, needing distraction from the waiting. 4 years. Started in Minho's crew, worked my way up. Built evidence, documented everything. Hannah's smile was cold. Your arrival accelerated the timeline. Forced everyone's hand. Sorry for ruining your investigation. You didn't ruin it. You completed it. Hannah pulled out a badge, FBI real and legitimate. Special Agent Hannah Park. And I'm offering you a deal, Lydia. Full immunity for everything. The embezzlement, aiding a criminal enterprise, tonight's bloodbath. New identity, relocation, witness protection. She paused. Freedom. Real freedom this time. Everything Lydia had wanted. Everything she'd run toward 3 years ago. A clean slate. Safety. Life without looking over her shoulder. The operating room door opened. Dr. Chin emerged, pulling off bloody gloves. He's stable. Lost a lot of blood, but I got the bullets out, stitched the knife wound. He'll need weeks of recovery, but he'll live. Lydia pushed past him into the recovery room. Kang lay pale against white sheets, chest rising and falling with sedated breaths. Bandages covered his shoulder, his side, his temple. He looked vulnerable in a way she'd never seen, stripped of the mafia boss armor, just a man who'd bled for her. She took his hand, pressed it to her cheek. You stupid, reckless fool. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused. Lydia. I'm here. Did you take the deal? His words were slurred from pain medication, but his eyes held sharp awareness. Freedom. You should take it. What if I don't want freedom? Her voice broke. What if I want you? Kang's grip tightened on her hand. Can't give you both. You know that. He struggled to sit up and she helped him, adjusting pillows. Lydia. Vampire. Can't have both. Too dangerous. Too many enemies. You'll never be safe while I'm... He stopped, the words catching. While I'm what I am. Then stop being it. Silence stretched between them. Outside, Hannah's phone buzzed with incoming reports. The world kept spinning, waiting for them to choose. You're asking me to burn everything, Kang said slowly. Walk away from the organization. From power. From the only life I've known since I was 19. I'm asking you to choose me. Lydia held his face between her hands, forcing him to meet her eyes. Really choose me. Not stolen moments between wars. Not nights in hiding. Real life. Together. They'll come after us. Other crews. Rivals. People who think we know too much. Let them try. Kang searched her face, looking for doubt, finding only fierce certainty. His hand moved to her stomach, resting there with deliberate intention. What if there's another baby? Lydia's breath caught. She hadn't told him yet. Hadn't been sure herself until 2 days ago. A pregnancy test stolen from a pharmacy during their safe house stay. How did you? The way you've been holding yourself. Avoiding coffee. The look in your eyes when you think I'm not watching. His smile was tender, devastating. I've memorized everything about you, Lydia. Every tell. Every secret. Tears spilled down her cheeks. 8 weeks. I was going to tell you after. She gestured at the chaos their lives had become. Then I choose you. Kang said it simply like it was the easiest decision in the world. The empire is ash. Power is temporary. But you, his voice roughened. You're the only thing that's ever mattered. He turned to Hannah standing in the doorway. What do you need? Everything. Bank accounts, shell corporations, names of everyone in your organization from top to bottom. Locations, operations, evidence of crimes. Hannah's expression was unreadable. You help us dismantle it all, you both walk. New identities. Relocation abroad. Witness protection for as long as you need it. And my people? The ones who want out get deals. The ones who don't. He shrugged. That's on them. Kang looked at Lydia, at her hand unconsciously protective over her stomach, and something in his eyes transformed. Not surrender. Get me a laptop. I'll give you everything. 6 weeks later, they stood in a safe house in New Zealand, overlooking endless ocean. The surgery scars were still pink against Kang's skin, but he moved easier now, stronger. He'd spent those weeks turning over every secret of his empire, watching it crumble in real time through news reports. His legacy destroyed. His power evaporated. And he'd never looked more at peace. Lydia's pregnancy was showing now, a small curve beneath her loose shirt. Kang's hand found it constantly, like he couldn't quite believe it was real. They had new names, David and Lisa Chin, and jobs lined up at a small accounting firm. Mundane. Normal. Everything they'd never been. This time I'll do it right, Kang murmured, arms around her from behind as they watched the sunset. I promise you. No violence. No enemies. Just us and our family. Lydia leaned into him, feeling safe for the first time in years. I believe you. But as darkness fell, she noticed a black car idling on the road below their safe house. No plates. Tinted windows. I'd been there yesterday. And the day before. Kang, she said quietly. He'd already seen it. His body tensed, instincts honed over 20 years recognizing threat. Could be nothing. Could be locals. Could be ghosts. He turned her to face him, hands framing her face. If they come, we run. If we can't run, we fight. But whatever happens, his thumb brushed her lips. I chose you. I'd choose you 1,000 times over. Lydia kissed him, tasting promise and danger in equal measure. Below them, the black car's engine started. Drove away slowly. A message. A warning. A reminder that some debts never expire. She pulled Kang back inside, locked the door and chose not to think about tomorrow. Tonight they had each other. Tonight they had hope. Tonight they were free. But as she fell asleep in his arms, Lydia knew the truth they both refused to speak aloud. They'd bought time, not escape. And eventually their past would come collecting. And there you have it. Lydia and Kang's dangerous journey from betrayal to redemption, from enemies to lovers willing to burn the world down for each other. But that black car outside. That's a promise that their story isn't quite finished. If this tale of obsession, sacrifice, and fierce love left you breathless, show this video some love with a like and subscribe to the channel for more stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. I want to hear from you. Do you think they'll get their happy ending, or is that black car the beginning of their next nightmare? Comment below and let me know where you're watching from. Your theories, your reactions, I read them all. And if you can't get enough of dark romance and mafia love stories, click that next video waiting for you. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming. Until next time, keep choosing love over fear, beautiful souls. Even when it's dangerous.